Marsh here on Express, and I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by BBC News, Citadel, and Billy Elliott's voice coach, Elspeth Morrison, who is working with AA Driving School to help his instructors understand the importance of performing and voice control when teaching, especially when dealing with nervous drivers, and also Mark Born, who is the head of Driving Instructor Academy at the AA Driving School. So, Mark and Elspeth, thank you very much for joining me.
Oh, happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So, let's face it, learning to drive for 99% of people is a really nerve-wracking experience. Some people are lucky enough that maybe they're brought up on a farm or somewhere with wasteland, and and their parents may let them drive a car every once in a blue moon, so they know what they're doing or they've got an idea. But for most people, including myself, which was a long time ago now, when I sat behind a car, behind the wheel, for the very first time of my first lesson, I had never, ever done it before, and I had no clue what I was doing.
Yeah. And how was your instructor?
Oh, like I say, it was a while ago.
Can you remember your instructor?
I think he had a top hat and a cane.
Oh,
I think I had to wind the car up.
fine. Marvelous.
Maybe not that long ago, but no, he was great. He was really great. He was an older guy. He'd been there, seen it, done it, got the T-shirt, and I believe he retired just a few months after I passed. I'm not sure whether that was me that kind of made him do that or not, but
Could have been. But no, that's interesting, because what you just described is the experience new people have when they get in the car, when you don't know it, you haven't been brought up on a farm. It's there's so much to think about. So you want you're effectively in a mobile classroom is what you are. So the instructor needs to be in a place where they're in a calm place, where they know what they're talking about. And what we've been working with is getting the instructors to know their material quite well, to say it out loud, get used to saying it, and get used to using the acoustic of the car, if you like. I mean, what I've enjoyed really very much about working with AA Driving School is that the training they do already very much chimes with the sort of thing I'm saying, just purely from a voice point of view.
Right.
Like allow silence, for example, check in that people have got the instruction, do pauses, don't just rattle on like a crazy person, thinking you've got to fill all the time. No, what are your tendencies? Do you tend to be someone who's a bit frowny and a bit squinty and a bit harsh? Are you somebody who's going to say, slow down, do that? Obviously, as a new driver, whether nervous or not, it's going to make you nervous, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
100%.
what is your tone of voice? Or is it perhaps a little bit too smiley? Because some people live here all the time with that kind of very smiley voice. And that can be quite irritating as well, and feel quite patronizing. So it's just finding kind of what works for you and what works for your learner. These are some of the things to be thinking about: is your actual tone of voice, your volume in this enclosed space. You don't want to be bellowing at people, but neither do you want to be talking so softly.
No.
They have to lean across when you want actually for them to keep their eyes on the road. So these are all actual natural speech things. And what we've been working on is labeling some of the things that we actually all do in real life, to be honest, Paul. They're not kind of strange things, but it's sort of labeling and make people aware of what their tendencies are, so they can communicate the best they can in the most calm and assured manner.
I think being a driving instructor is probably one of the hardest jobs in the world, because as we all know, it can be very frustrating when there's something that you can do and you can do it really well, and somebody else can't do that, and you're trying to teach them, whether it's a parent on the computer or a child with a phone or whatever you're trying to teach somebody. It can be very, very difficult and very, very frustrating. So like we say, to try and be a driving instructor and remain calm and have that calm voice and everything else on top of that is, I think, just to do that is an amazing job.
It's interesting, actually. So a lot of people actually come into the industry because they like driving, they like vehicles, they like mobility, and that's a natural sort of thing. Then, I like driving, I could become a driving instructor. But one clear trait across all driving instructors is they're helpful people. They want to help people, and one of the things we have to do then in the training is actually break the driving task back down again, because of course we automate it, you know, as we become more and more proficient at it, we automate it, we don't have to think about it and things like that. So the first stage of training is actually breaking that task back down again and getting people to actually understand how complex it is. And it's a really complex task. It's then, of course, you've got a complex task, and then you've got the complexity of learning. And when we're talking about nervous drivers, those nerves affect their learning. If they're nervous, they can't take that information in. So it's not only going to affect the way that they drive, but it also affects the way they learn. So I think that's the patience then as a driving instructor that you need. You know, we often think driving instructors need lots of patience with what else is happening on the car, but it's actually, yeah, what's actually happening inside the car with the pupil, and we all learn differently. And so some people will absolutely pick things up, no problems, you know, and sort of sound through their training. Others will get stuck, and you know, you might have a sort of a learning plateau where learning has been going really, really well, but for some reason something's actually stopped, and sometimes that's just we've taken in too much information over a short period of time. So our instructors, you know, they need to be recognizing all of this. And what's been great with the work that we've been doing with Elspeth is, as she said, you know, we've been labeling things and sort of identifying where the instructors are already doing this, but just helping them to recognize that they're doing it. And then that way they can monitor themselves as to, okay, I do this all the time. Because what we want as a driving school is for our pupils that have a lesson at the very beginning of the day, for that, you know, the pupil at the lesson at the end of the day, they have the same experience, you know. So as our driving instructors have worked a full day, you know, perhaps a little bit tired at the end of the day, you know, they need more self-awareness to actually recognize my voice is still the same, my teaching is still the same, my energy levels are still up, I've not slouched down in my seat. And that was something that was really, really clear that came out in the training, and the feedback from the instructors was that ability to know this is almost my checklist of things that I need to be aware of and to monitor and to ask my pupils for feedback. You know, we encourage our instructors to ask their pupils for a lot of feedback in terms of, you know, how they found the lesson, what they've learned and things like that. How is the learning style being taught? And so this is another bit that they can actually ask for some feedback on. So yeah, so it's been really, really good.
I think also when we talk about learner drivers, we all think about a 17 or 18-year-old, but of course, it's not just 17 and 18-year-olds learning to drive. People of all ages, all over the country, anywhere can learn to drive. So I think if you're a driving instructor, you also need to be a people person as well. I need to be able to see who's getting in the car and know how I can treat them, and know whether I can talk to them as a mate, or whether I need to talk to them with a little bit of respect, or, you know, there's lots of different ways of doing that.
Yeah,
which is again what we,
absolutely.
sorry,
Oh,
Mark.
go on, Elspeth, you go.
No, I was going to say, this is again what kind of what we do in real life as well. You know, you probably, let's say you've been stuck on the motorway on the way to a wedding, you've probably got a different way of addressing the older grandparents to the younger people there, because we change in our language all the time depending what we're doing. So and being aware that people straight from school have still got a learning muscle, they're in a particular mode, and people who might not have done any learning for a while, you might just have to alter how you speak to help them hear what you're saying. So yeah, and I was just going to pick up something you said before about, you know, people you know instructing you. It's sometimes best to get a professional in, because I haven't heard many people go, oh, I had such a marvelous experience learning off my husband, wife, brother, cousin. It was absolutely fantastic.
No, yeah, you're spot on.
So, you know, and I haven't been paid to say this, I promise you, but actually getting an outsider in who doesn't know you that well is actually, you know, probably quite a helpful thing to do, because they can adjust to what you need.
I think that's all walks of life. It's all walks of life. Somebody can give you a family member can give you a piece of advice and you will not pay attention. But if a professional gives you that advice, you will listen.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm an HGV driver as well. I've got an HGV license, so I'd imagine that teaching HGV drivers to a normal student would be very, very different. But if you could maybe offer some top tips, what would they be?
Listen to who you've got in the car with you. I know this doesn't sound like delivery and what you're saying, but know what you're talking about, practice what you're saying out loud, but listen and watch how they're taking on the information, you know, and don't be put off if you see someone sort of squinting and doing this. It doesn't mean they're nervous or terrible. That might be their process of getting information in. So really observe them and fake it to make it, you know, keep that sort of calm voice in the face of everything going around you. Know that you know your stuff and you're there to impart information. Really small thing like just nodding. I mean, not like some crazy dog on the back of a castle, but just sort of, you know, a little nod of affirmation that helps kind of embody what you're trying to say.
And Mark, any tips for us?
So I think, I mean, interesting about the HGV driving and teaching people there. So I think, you know, if we again look at learning, two big barriers to people learning is that anxiety. And as you get older, we start to notice more about what we can worry about, I think, as well. You know, we start to worry about our children and all those sorts of things. So that all plays into it. And then the other bit is previous knowledge can get in the way. You know, I've always done it like this. And so actually, again, it's about asking questions, and it's about recognizing that people do have previous experiences, and then identifying, well, what's good about perhaps the way you've just suggested doing that, and you know, well, how about we try it this way, and then we evaluate together the two. And so, you know, I think that's the way that you need to work with people, is just to treat everybody as an individual, because even our learner drivers, it's, you know, it's the 17-year-olds, they've had 17 years of learning. They've had 17 years of being a passenger in a car. They may have done some, you know, under 17s driving experiences. They've been on computer games and things like that. They have some opinions. And so that's important to recognize as well. So I think what's been really good is we've always encouraged, obviously, communication and making sure that we're listening to our pupils and things like that. But yeah, working with Elspeth, we've been able to really hone in on that, and give it another fresh angle for our instructors and our instructor trainees, so that, you know, it's nice and fresh again, and nice and relevant.
Mark, Elspeth, thank you so much for talking to me. I really do appreciate it. If people want to find out a little bit more about the AA driving school, whether that's to become a student or an instructor, where can they do that?
So if they head over to our website, so it's www.theaa.com, and it's /driving-school. Okay. Or if they can't find a site, they can just Google AA driving school.
Perfect. Thank you again, both of you. I really do appreciate it. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Pleasure.
Fantastic.
Right.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.